Today, we have a quick update regarding this Victor Wembanyama black gold that was allegedly stolen on consignment at a local card store in San Antonio, Texas. This is a pretty spicy one, if you guys do recall. It related to a card and a bunch of others going on consignment to a local card store alongside some Rolex watches, totaling upwards of 200 grand that were allegedly stolen by the company. A lawsuit was brought forward, and then we also referenced, a local news report from a TV station about the case in of itself, and that's how it came to my attention. The thing I want to flag today, though, is a bit more information came to light, before my video was released that I missed, and also in the preceding days that I think you guys need to be across, because you will know well by now that I, like to give updates to these stories to keep you guys informed. Now, it's this video over here, like I said, in that Victor Wembanyama black gold you can sort of see over there. An individual basically hit it in a box, a hobby box, and then decided to try and sell it. It's essentially a six-figure card. I think I saw a comp for around $70,000 USD, but people were expecting it to go for over 100. Long story short, the guy basically hits that card. He takes it to the local card store because he wants to try and get a true gold prism, i.e. the traditional prism gold out of 10. He consigned a few other cards as well as some watches, which we thought was a bit strange in the last video. Like, why are you going to consign, number one, cards of that value to your local card store, let alone, luxury watches? But, seemed very, very strange. And obviously the lawsuit and the TV station basically reporting on it looked like it was going to get some traction for the individual in terms of getting their cards back and also their money back. The thing I want to flag today is actually brought to you by Paul Lesko, who we've referenced many times on this channel in the past. He's a lawyer, and he loves talking about lawsuits relating to this hobby all the time on Twitter. Basically, if there's an ongoing lawsuit within this hobby, he's talking about it, and I think he's a really good source of information for those things. And what, I sort of missed before recording my video was that he had actually gone out and actually released some information, and some of the information would have been really good to share with you in the first place, because it maybe highlights that the plaintiff, the collector who thinks he's being scammed here, is a lot dumber than what we already thought, right? It's already very strange to go ahead and consign 200 grand worth of stuff to a local card store when you have, big businesses like Probstein and Golden that are doing this as their bread and butter. But it seems he's done a few other things here that is just, leaving me scratching my head, and that's the update I want to give you. So, what Paul talks to in this Twitter thread is that, the guy basically hit the card. It was numbered 4 out of 5. It's worth around 100 grand or so, he thinks. And he wanted to try and get a true prism gold. And after basically hitting the card, he went to the local card store Legends Only and tried to do a deal, right? Talked to the fact that he wanted to try and get this prism gold, and that's how the consignment deal ended up going down. Now, what Paul basically explains here is that the consigned items also included a PSA 8 Jordan, allegedly worth 7K, which I'm guessing would be an 86 Flea. I'm assuming the same. 4 boxes of sports cards. The doc says prism, but no year or sport. And when he says the doc, he means the lawsuit details. And allegedly worth being 4K, and then 4 Rolex watches, which aren't cards, obviously, allegedly worth around 65,000. And it goes on to say here, true prism gold is what he was trying to get. Now, this is where it gets, confusing, like Paul also says himself here, because what Paul identified within the legal documents, right, is that this is where things get confusing. It appears after maybe another consignment, the plaintiff was in this for 98,000. So what the lawsuit is essentially going down about is the fact that this company has taken his cards on consignment, but he hasn't really got updates. He's been chasing for his money. He's not heard anything, and he's having a really terrible time. But what these documents indicate is that he already had a consignment worth $98,000 with this company, allegedly, ahead of giving more cards and Rolex watches to them. So, logic would say, well, if you've already given them that amount of thing and you haven't really heard anything back, why would you go ahead and give them even more? And that just goes again to the naivety that we spoke about when we touched on it in the original video, right? We spoke about how stupid people are these days when they're going ahead and not, thinking through things before they go ahead and do them. You can do what you want with your cards, with your money, but when you're going ahead and giving 200 grand to a local card store, when it comes to high-end cards and watches, you're sort of asking for trouble, right? Especially when you're avoiding the people that are doing this sort of stuff as their bread and butter. But to sort of go one step further and already have, close to 6 figures consigned with them, or maybe I'm reading this wrong, maybe this is what was already consigned with them, but irrespective, to go and have that kind of money already consigned to a company, you're not hear anything back, you're still then willing to go ahead and give them even more, just reeks of you being somebody that is prone to getting scammed and prone to being taken advantage of. And you see, things like this all the time, unfortunately. You see people, being too trusting, which is you know, a pretty terrible thing to say. As I've said before, you know, I'm an Aussie. Aussies are the kind of culture where we look after each other, right? We're a country built on mateship, amongst other things. So I like trusting people. But when you sort of see this continually happen in this space where people get taken advantage of, it's like, guy, maybe start thinking a bit more critically and look after yourself a little bit more, especially if you're somebody that kind of money would be a lot of money to, which I would assume it would be, you know, for the vast majority of this hobby, including myself, right? That's a crap ton of cash. And what I should have mentioned earlier is that he's obviously chasing that true prism gold because, you know, Legends basically said they could do the consignment deal because they already had a seller lined up, which is what they go on to say here. But just one of those ones that I think, you know, is just crazy to me. Again, it's mentioned over here that they claimed that Wembanyama True Gold rookie was available and that it would get, you know, the deal done, which is why he went ahead and consigned so much stuff. But there's a lot more here to sort of talk to. And ultimately, he's owed around $220,000 USD. But it's just a bit wild, obviously. And what's sort of come out in the last few days that isn't, you know, a bit more interesting that I can't actually find the tweet for right now is that apparently Legends Only, Rashad Aldridge, who is the owner, no longer have a lawyer representing them in this case. I could be wrong when I say that. It could have been misinformation because I can't actually find the tweet right now. But that's what, you know, I recall seeing earlier today. So pretty interesting. Take that with a grain of salt, obviously, but curious to know what that's actually going to mean for the lawsuit, right? If this sort of thing progresses and they don't have legal representation, what does that actually mean in terms of whether or not they can defend themselves in the case, etc., and what it means for the collector and whether they're going to get their cards back or their money back. And you like to hope it's going to be at least one of those two things. And what's also interesting, as I did mention in the last video as well, is that the cards have apparently not been stolen and not sold. There's just no status update for where the cards actually are. But, you know, given that this thing is dragging on, it's safe to assume, if all this stuff is true, let's assume this is all true, that the cards are long gone by now and that the guy's probably going to get paid out in cash. But one other thing that I wanted to quickly mention as well, there's been a few tweets on here that have since been deleted from people like this individual over here that have accused Rashad Aldridge, who is the owner of Legends Only, of being a known scammer. They're saying he's done things in the NFT space similar to what's going on in this lawsuit, and that he's also actually known in the card community for doing these things. Now, I take those things with a grain of salt. Like I said a bit earlier, they're just allegations. It's hard to prove. And the fact that those tweets have since been deleted leads me to believe that they're maybe not true. But again, one of those ones, watch your space and sort of see what comes from it, because it never ceases to amaze me. People in this space that have, you know, businesses or are quite well known within the hobby or the industry going ahead and doing these scams. It's like, what do you think is going to happen, right? It's a very small niche community, right? News and word travels fast. So if you're somebody that's, you know, going to rip someone off and you've got this big brand behind you, it's like, why are you risking that brand to try and, you know, take advantage of someone for, you know, 200K, which, like I said earlier, is a lot of money for a lot of people, including myself, right? That's enough to me. My wife doesn't have to work for multiple years, right? That would be fantastic to have happen. But when you're a business, that's not a lot of money, right? When you think about the annuity of your business being able to operate for many, many years, right? Generational wealth for your family, like have it be a business that's around for a long time, you know, make or break over 200 grand just seems like ridiculous to me. And the point I'm trying to make is there's so many scammers in this space that just look to rip people off, that are prepared to damage their brand without realizing that it's such a small niche that things can just go like that overnight and then you're gone. Like, you can't hide. Once you're known to do bad things, like the allegations are in this story, in this lawsuit, then you're going to get found out pretty quickly and people are going to tell you to, you know, fuck off. So it's just crazy. I want to hear your thoughts down below. Like I said, guys, very quick one today that probably ended up going for too long. I just wanted to give you that update. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you've known this guy, if you've dealt with Legends Only. I think there was a stack of people in the last video that said, you know, they were local to this store, which is pretty interesting. I'm keen to see what your interactions were like with this owner, because obviously, you know, I'm on the other side of the world. I'm only reading words on a screen, so it's hard for me to form an opinion. But we'll just sort of see what happens with the lawsuit, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, that's sort of it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.